Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness. This is episode 89. It's John Webster here with Elise Seifert, and we're talking about what today, Elise?
We are talking about social wellness today, and you actually sent me a really interesting social media post about making connections, which is an important element of social wellness.
This came from Instagram. The address was at ddm_wellness. She talks about 3 different aspects of social wellness. This one today, we're talking about making connections and finding new social connections. And she has a nice bullet point list. You know me, I love bullet point lists.
Love a good list.
So why don't we read through the list first? You go first, and then me, and then we'll talk about a few of them.
Perfect. So the first point is to join a group focused on a favorite hobby, such as reading, hiking, painting, etc.
Second, learn something new. Take a cooking, writing, art, music, some other type of class.
Volunteer at a school, library, hospital, or place of worship.
Number 4 is participate in neighborhood events like a park cleanup through your local recreation center or community association.
Get active in your community. Helping others can reduce feelings of loneliness.
And last, travel to a different place and meet new people. These are all great ways to make connections.
Definitely. I know the one that really stood out to me was traveling to meet new people, which can be kind of interesting. I don't know if I really thought before I traveled that I would meet a lot of people while traveling, but I definitely made a lot of really interesting connections when I would go traveling, maybe backpacking. And I actually still follow them on social media and we still communicate, which is super interesting because we didn't spend a lot of time together, but traveling together really helped us to connect because we were experiencing something new.
The other thing I like about that, one of the great advantages of social wellness and social connections is getting things from people who think differently than you or who have different experiences or different backgrounds. That happens right here in Canada when we talk to people even in our own cities. But it must be even more so when you're traveling. So you're connecting with people, making friends, but you're also seeing these different perspectives.
Yeah, and it was really interesting because you would meet people who were traveling for the same reasons as you. So for example, I went backpacking in Southeast Asia for 6 months, and I met a lot of other people from Western countries who were doing the exact same thing as me, following a very similar route. And I actually saw some people in several different places. We kind of had the same schedule. But I would also meet people who were doing things that were very different from myself. So for example, I met a girl from France who was hitchhiking her way through Southeast Asia and camping mostly. So
wow,
it was
that's gutsy.
Really gutsy and really interesting to speak to her and her experiences and why she was doing it and what she was getting out of it. So there are a lot of people that you meet that are similar, a lot of people that are different. And I think it's really great to get different perspectives from new people.
So it sounds like you were making more connections with the other people traveling versus the people who live in the countries.
Yes, I would definitely say that because I would be staying in hostels. So we would have maybe 14-person rooms, 8-people rooms. So you would talk with the people who were staying in the room with you. And sometimes you might go to events with them or say, hey, what are you up to? And you would learn what to do or learn more things about them. And that was really great.
Okay. Well, the one I wouldn't mind talking about is getting active in the community. And I've learned this in life. I think a lot of people, I've talked on the show about this. I do think a lot of younger people do want to be active and they do want to help the community, but they got so many things going on and so many hills they're climbing to get where they want to get that a lot of times it's not until kind of your 30s or 40s where you start thinking about things like service clubs or community work. But once you get into that, it's incredibly rewarding to be doing things as part of a group that helps your community. There's really nothing that compares to it. In this post, it talks about reducing feelings of loneliness. I never really did it for that reason, but of course, it's hard to be lonely when you're in that group. But for me, getting active in the community, it just brings out so much. And also, I've met so many people that way.
And I imagine it's very rewarding and heartwarming to meet other people who care so much about their community and want to do good for their community.
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example. So I was in Rotary. Sheila said something interesting. So we joined, and for the most part, there's a lot of professionals who are in Rotary, and a lot of them are very successful. And so at first blush, you think successful professionals, maybe they're a bit arrogant, maybe they're used to the upper crust, or I don't know how to say it, but basically some negative thoughts. These were the nicest people that we've really come across. And Sheila said, wow, I can't believe how nice everybody is in this club. I think that would probably ring true in a lot of the service clubs. The reason you're joining is for good motivation. So not surprisingly, you're right. You meet a lot of really great people who enjoy helping like you do.
Another one that popped out for me was finding people by doing a favorite hobby. So I know it can be hard to meet people when you're an adult. As a kid, it seems effortless to meet new people. You just stumble upon another child and you're best of friends.
You run into them at school or at camp or wherever.
Yeah. But I find as an adult, a great way to meet new people is to do an activity that you enjoy doing, and you will likely meet people who are like-minded and who you'd like to spend time with. So I know I've met a lot of people doing things like yoga classes, or maybe just going to certain events, going to different fairs or festivals. You can meet a lot of people that way, and just doing something that you enjoy means you're likely going to meet someone that you would get along with. So I would definitely recommend that.
It's really important, and it's also actually important in the context of careers and economic wellness. I remember some years ago, we had different people who come to our office. I'm a lawyer, so there's a lot of networking in that capacity where you're trying to meet people so that they'll work with you and you can work with them, and you're sending work each way. We call that networking. The tip that this one person gave, I thought was a terrific one, is, they'll say, look, there's lots of things you can do. There's lots of things you're going to learn. But one of the best things you can do is to find a hobby that you like. Find something you like and join that club, right? So if you like biking, join a biking club. If you like tennis, join a tennis club. Whatever it is you like, find that thing you love. And then there's other people there who you're going to want to network with who love it too. And boom, it's just such a great way to connect because you're connecting over something that you both enjoy so much.
Yeah. And what a great thing to do for yourself. It's good to treat yourself to doing something that you love too.
So that's a really good one, Elise. The other one I wanted to talk about was participating in, this said neighborhood events, but in my case, it was one of the service club events, and that was park cleanup. So we would organize, there's a trail in Kitchener called the Dom Cardillo Trail, and different groups take a section of like 2, 3, 4 kilometers, and they say, you know what, we're going to keep this clean. And so our team would figure out a day, say twice a year, and we'd go out and clean up the path. And it was interesting because part of it's frustrating because you're like, what is wrong with people?
Yeah, people are the worst. They throw away everything on the ground.
Here's the one that bothers me the most, right? So with dogs, you have to pick up your doggy poop, and everyone has those little bags. Mm-hmm. Well, if you can believe it, all these people, they have it in a bag, they just throw it into the trees.
Oh, that's terrible.
Off to the side of the path. It's like, if you're going to do it, if you're going to carry it, why won't you put it in the garbage or wherever the compost? Like, I think it's actually compostable in some fashion. And so that really used to tick me off. Or else sometimes someone would just come and like dump the contents of their old bedroom that they don't want anymore. Like, they'll just put a bunch of crap in the back of the forest. And you're just like, what is wrong with people? Mm-hmm. But just as much as you're complaining about what's wrong with people, it feels great when you're done and you have this really clean path. And it's work, but everyone's happy. And then when you're done, you see all these bags of garbage ready for pickup, and you're like, this is a nice clean path.
A very good visual of the work that you did together.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's other things that people can do with cleaning up rivers or all types of stuff like that. It's a really great feeling, and it's a way to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm. Volunteering at soup kitchens, or I know I've gone to organize food at a local shelter, and that's really rewarding and also nice to meet new people.
We're going to try come back to social wellness from time to time. And it's interesting because with the 8 categories, some seem to always come up. Mental health, physical health, they always come up. Spiritual comes up a lot. But some of them, like social and intellectual, to a degree economic, we don't talk about them as much. So we'll try and come back to them at time. And I like talking about making connections as an important way to enhance your social wellness. Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Hello, it's John Webster, and this is part 1 of a 2-part interview of Nora Fueten. Today's interview is in the category of multiple areas of wellness, including mental, spiritual, intellectual, and more. Reverend Nora Fueten is living a rich life. At 83, Nora was recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. The diagnosis is terminal, and it's a situation that many of us will ultimately face. And I'm grateful Nora is willing to share her experience and perspective with us. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Nora Fueten is retired and she's a United Church minister. She studied music at University of Calgary and obtained her Master's of Divinity from Emmanuel College at University of Toronto. Some of her experiences include growing up in the Brantford area, 5 years as a vocal coach and assistant conductor with an opera in Dusseldorf, Germany, sheep farming in Brant County, and leading a cappella choir. She's active politically and was a Green Party candidate. Her husband, Horst, who passed away in 2018, was born in Germany. Nora has 2 daughters, a stepson, and 3 grandchildren. So Nora, we believe that it's a good thing for people to share our experiences, including life's challenges. And most of us cannot imagine how we would feel and what we would think if we received a terminal cancer diagnosis. I expect that each of us would react differently. I'd like to ask about how you took the news and what you're thinking about now. Possibly could we begin by what led to the diagnosis? Where were you and how did you receive it?
Actually, my first experience with the medical system came with an emergency bowel surgery. And at that time, they said, we got everything. We checked the lymph nodes. Everything is clear. About a year and a half later, however, I was beginning to notice that I was very fatigued a lot of the time and that my digestive process just didn't seem to be working as well. So that led to a number of tests and a couple of little bit of episodes in the ER in Brantford, which I don't really recommend. And then we finally got the diagnosis after a PET scan, which is a full body scan, which identifies cancer as beginnings of cancer and major tumors and everything wherever. So I met with the oncologist after that, and very nice man, very direct. He said, you have stage 4 colon cancer. It is inoperable.
And what does stage 4 mean?
Well, that's bad. It's referring to the fact that there are little bits of cancer forming, not just where the original cancer was, but that it has started to spread to different parts of, in my case, in my abdomen. And so they are not able to operate under these circumstances. For one thing, I'm a bit old for a major surgery, but also when cancer has already spread, they can't get it all, and it tends to make it worse rather than better if they try to operate. And so that's why he says it's inoperable.
What about things like chemotherapy? Are you able to?
My first reaction was, I am not going that route.
Okay.
And my reasoning for that is that as a United Church minister, I've visited a lot of people with cancer, and I've heard horror stories about side effects, and then it didn't work anyway. They went through, if I may use the word, hell for maybe 16 months and then died. However, they have actually progressed quite a bit in terms of treatment for cancer. And as time went on, my oncologist persuaded me that they would give me a low dose of chemo, which would be only pills, and combine that with a little bit of immunotherapy, which is the cutting edge thing that they're working on right now. And so the result is I get an infusion of the immunotherapy. I have 2 weeks on these pills, and then I have a week off, which is where I'm at right now. And then we start over again with another infusion. Now, I've been very fortunate. Apart from a cold sore, I haven't had any side effects at all. Now, the chemo dosage that I'm getting is quite small, so that may have something to do with it. But anyway, I have not had, so far, hair loss. I have been tired, but I was tired anyway. I haven't had a lot of nausea, which is another usual side effect. My fingers do feel a little bit touchy, but it's not a problem. They give you a list of side effects, which is pretty horrendous, quite frankly. I've come through that very nicely so far. Although we'll see when I see my oncologist at the end of this week how things are going.
Do you mean by that it may be that this will treat the cancer and either put it into remission or stave it off for a long period of time?
I think the best I can hope for is that it will slow it down.
Okay.
It will not cure it. In fact, he was very clear. This is not curable.
I see.
But it can be much slower in terms of its advance. But I suspect that it depends how it advances, too. If it were to be, if the original tumor were to get to be much bigger and cause a complete blockage of the bowel, then, not nice at all.
Right. So if you go back to when you got the news, I assume it was in kind of like an office setting for the consultation?
Yes, it was in the cancer care clinic at the Brantford General Hospital.
Had you kind of steeled yourself beforehand for possible?
Well, hey, you know what? I knew I wasn't feeling well.
Right.
Now, it was worse than I'd expected.
Right.
However, I had been thinking about the fact that, maybe, this is serious. So that I was a little surprised, but I had been preparing myself for that, of course.
And how long ago was that?
That was last June.
All right. So we can't obviously go through the whole time period, but what were some of the impressions and reactions you had at the time, and what have you started thinking about since?
At the time, as I said, when I thought of chemotherapy, I thought, no. We'll just go with this and see how it is. However, I'm now beginning to see that it is perhaps possible to have a slightly longer life than I had thought. It depends how it develops, and it's anybody's guess. So I have kind of made friends with it, should we say, to a certain extent, because I'm willing to try the treatment and see whether it actually gives me quality of life or not. But I was very clear with the oncologist, and he understands. I said, if I don't have quality of life, I'm not interested.
Right. Okay, well, you're a United Church minister.
Yes.
I'm a former philosophy student. It's not unusual for us to think about the big questions.
Yes.
And I assume that some of those questions have come to the forefront since this has happened?
Those are questions that I have always been dealing with,
right.
Because as a minister, I've dealt with many people who are dying. And in my own family, I've seen my brother and sister die, my parents die. So I've had a lot of chance to think about what is this about anyway, The fact of the matter is, death is part of life. As you as a philosopher are well aware of that, I'm sure. And we like to pretend that it isn't. We like to put that out of our minds and act as though, of course, we're going to be here forever. And we're always going to be healthy and we're always going to be able to do the things we like to do. But that's simply unrealistic. That's not the way things are.
No, and I know for me, by coincidence, I like to run. Mm-hmm. And one of the routes I often run, especially if I'm doing what's called high-intensity interval training, is in a cemetery. Uh-huh. And I like thinking about the fact, like I'm in there and there's graves as far as I can see, and I probably don't know who any of those people are.
Yeah.
And I'm running, and it makes me kind of think about living in the moment, appreciating the moment.
Exactly. And that's the main thing. That what we have is today, is this minute right now.
Right.
That's what we have for sure. And it's part of my religious faith, actually, that every moment is precious and every person you meet is precious and every experience you have is precious. And so you keep that in mind as you're going through. And then you realize, too, though, that we don't know what happens when we die.
No.
There are those who are convinced that there are pearly gates and golden streets. That is in the book of Revelation, so I can see where it's coming from. But I have learned enough about science. I'm not a scientist, but I have learned enough to know that there isn't any place in our universe for that heaven, right?
Right.
It's just unrealistic. However, I do feel very strongly that I have been enwrapped, shall we say, by a kind of love and direction and a kind of a little pushing that kept me going and trying new things, which is an energy, is a very creative and loving energy. And I cannot see that there's any way, and physicists will back me up on this, that energy does not disappear, it gets transformed into something else.
I think that as well, that basically it's a physical principle that you don't lose energy.
No.
And for me, I'm not a particularly religious person to any one particular religion, but I do feel spiritual. And for me, there's a kind of a combination that I haven't been able to articulate yet about both a connectedness and an energy. A connectedness to the cosmos and also to the earth and to each other. And that starts to come into play when I start thinking about this.
You need to read a person called Ilia Delio, who is very interesting on this because she is a scientist and a Roman Catholic theologian. And so she combines the energy that created the cosmos in the first place with the idea of the energy that surrounds us all, with the energy that causes leaves to come out in the spring and causes them to die in the fall. All of that is part of one, now some people use the term cosmic dance. And so that's where we fit is in the middle of all of that. And of course, there is some idea that actually death is the door to a new life, a new expression of the creative energy that has kept us going all this time. So when we were that would be kind of nice. I'd like that.
When we were setting up the call, I mentioned that one of the stories I liked from the religious context is that instead of thinking of us changing from people to like super people, that it's kind of like a seed, right?
Yes.
We're like a seed, and a seed doesn't grow into a big seed. It grows into a flower, completely different. And you pointed out that actually has some biblical roots.
Yes, that's 1 Corinthians 15. That's in there.
But I like that concept of a different form altogether. Like the energy is switching into a different form.
Well, absolutely. And when I'm realistic, I used to laugh because I'd think, okay, so I'm going to be reborn as Nora, but Nora at the age of 20 or 2 or 85, yes.
Well, one of the other things we talked about when we were just setting this up is you were saying that for lots of people, they're just tied up in the daily grind. And they're also focused a lot on being a unique person, and they're kind of focused on their ego, and how you're changing your thoughts a bit on that, and how
our whole education tends to make us want to be left-brain people. Achievers, people who can analyze stuff, people can organize stuff and have a really rich life and be really active. And that's fine. But there's also the other side of us, which is our intuitive, spiritual, imaginative side. And so both of those are very important. Now, I am a person who grew up in a family where achievement was considered very important.
Right. I think many of us are.
I think it's a general way of raising children these days. You know, how much did you get on that test? You know, why didn't you do better, et cetera, et cetera. And that's okay. I think particularly when you're starting out in life, that sense of direction is actually really helpful. It helps you to finish your education and figure out what you're going to do and establish yourself and maybe get married and have a couple of kids or whatever. All of that is really important, but it isn't everything. And I think that very often people, when they get to be 40, 45, will suddenly look at you and say, is this all?
Right.
You know, I've put all of my energy into my accomplishments and to my work, whatever it may be, or my career, or even my family life or whatever. But I have a feeling I'm missing something. And that's the point at which you start to realize that much as it's nice to earn money and much as it's nice to get kudos and have people saying, oh, you did a wonderful job, and yeah, sure, I like that as much as anybody else. But it's not really what it's all about. It probably has more to do with the quality of our, now the Christian word is witness, the way we express in our lives a kind of creative hopefulness. Now, certainly a kind of morality is important, but not the strict kind of morality. a morality that's based on concern and care for the other, whether it's another person or whether it's the earth or what. We need to have that. We need to have that.
That's the end of part 1. Join us next week when we complete our interview of Nora Fueten.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of The Adventures of the Starving Artist. This week, I'm mostly over COVID. I'm testing negative. I'm feeling so much better than I was. On my birthday, I felt like an absolute sack of crap, so anything's better than that. And all I'm dealing with now is the odd dry cough here and there, some residual sinus swelling, and a little bit of phlegm. Sorry if that's TMI, but that's just where we are these days. Things are going all right, though. I had to play a really ridiculous catch-up last week after being sick and down and out for a few days. With the day job, lots of cool stuff is happening, but lots of curveballs, some fires to put out. Some of our teachers are leaving for different cities. A couple are staying with the company, but obviously they can't teach their students in Ottawa when they're in Toronto, for example. So we've got a couple more in that camp. We have a few that are leaving just because, it's too much to juggle with that and their studies, and that's totally valid. And then we have a few that are leaving just because they're not feeling it, and that happens too. So while I was down and out, a number of staff told us that they would be headed for the hills, and so that leaves me with lots of hiring to do. So this past week has been lots of job interviews and a couple of hires, and more on the way. So that's been kind of cool. I'm getting a lot better at that, considering I was very green and new to it. I'm feeling a lot more confident with interviewing in general and just being in this new role. I'm feeling good about it. Also, I'm glad that I'm over COVID and testing negative and no longer contagious and all those wonderful things, because realistically, in about 8 hours, at about 4 a.m. tomorrow, I'm getting picked up and I'm taken off to the airport, and I'm headed down to Colorado for my friends JC and Celia, who are getting married next week. And so I've got quite a bit of travel ahead of me, but it should be a really great time. Once I get in there, it'll be morning, local time in Denver, and a couple errands to run with the groom, Mr. JC. And then that night, his band has a gig, and so I will definitely be attending that as a guest, and who knows, maybe I'll play a song or two with them as well. On what instrument? I don't know. We'll see when I get there. Yeah. So all in all, it's been a busy week of catching up and working the problems, putting out fires. But across the board, I'm feeling a lot better. Physically, I'm feeling a lot better. Mentally, more in tune with my new role and more in step. So things are good. I hope you're having a great week as well. Hopefully none of you got sick. I know it's going around, so keep washing those hands. Maybe a mask in public if that's the thing. Could be the move. That's all I've got for you this week. Thanks very much for listening, and enjoy the sunshine out there. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We love our listeners, and thanks for joining us. Please help spread the word about Let's Be Well Together podcast. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together, and let your friends know about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do. Hey, Elise, how do you like quizzes?
I love quizzes.
Okay, so this is a guessing game. You have to guess the 6 major muscle groups in your workout. So these are the 6 major muscle groups that you should focus on when you're doing a workout. What do you think?
Okay, 6 major muscle groups.
6 major muscle groups.
My first guess, I think, will be the abs.
Abs, yes. We women love our abs or hate them. I don't know which one it is. But yes, that is definitely one of the major muscle groups.
Awesome.
Ding, ding,
okay,
ding.
Next, I'm going to go with legs? Do
Yeah.
I need to be specific about the groups within the legs?
Nope. That's it. It's just legs. So
Just legs.
Just legs. So legs is number 2. Ding, ding, ding. You're doing
Oh
great.
man. Okay. I feel like it might be hard to get to 6.
You don't have 6 groups in your
Yeah,
body. What are
okay.
you?
Next, I'm going to guess arms. Are
Yeah.
they altogether perfect?
Yeah, arms.
Arms,
ding, ding.
amazing. 3 out of 6. Okay. Number 4, my guess is going to be the back.
Yep. Back. There it
Awesome.
is. I love our back exercises.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Now I think
4
I'm
at
pretty
least. You only have 2
tapped
more
out.
left. 2 more. You can do it.
2 more. I think I'm going to go neck.
Neck. Working your neck muscles. Nope. Bonk. That is not there. I'm just like right now, I'm sure if you could see me, I'm like, how do you work your neck muscles? I mean, I'm sure there are things that you can do, but that's not one of the major groups.
Not
Good
a
try.
major group.
No, not
Okay.
a major group.
I'm having a hard time identifying what's left. So we've had abs, legs, arms, back, maybe the chest.
Yeah, good one.
Okay.
Chest. That's a hard one, I think, for women because we as women don't focus on our chest as much, but we should, obviously. But guys, that's a major muscle group because they want to get those pecs looking good and everything. So yes.
Yes.
And there's only one more, Elise. One more group.
one more. Do you think you give me a hint?
Okay, maybe I'll try and think of an exercise that you can do to work this one. So this is a muscle group that you use a lot for carrying things besides your arms.
Okay. Shoulders.
Shoulders. There you go. I was going to do head and butt. That would totally
That's
give
also
it.
a good
So
hint.
there you go. You got them all. Good going. I mean, I know from my workouts because I have seen a trainer who's set up exercises for me and they've always centered around these groups and they're not. I find like when you're working your shoulders, you're also still working your biceps, you're working your back a little bit, right? But it's generally, these exercises generalize in those shoulders.
Right.
So the 6 areas are chest, back, arms, abs, legs, and shoulders. And there you go. So,
Amazing.
yeah, I find that for me, when I'm working those legs, I really feel like I'm working out. And not only that, there's a lot of muscles there to work on. And those are large muscles, right? Because with your legs, you've got your glutes, you've got your hamstrings, you've got your quads, you've got your calves, you've got so many strong muscles. So that's
For
your
sure.
leg
And
exercise.
I know when I'm doing weight training and it's leg day, I feel like I get a higher heart rate. It seems like a more cardiovascular workout for me.
I agree for
And
sure.
I also know from our experience as dancers, we focus a lot on our legs.
We are.
in terms of strength and flexibility. So maybe we bring that into our workouts.
For sure, because you do as a dancer. I feel like we have our arm strength. Arms are much more graceful and used almost just as visual. Whereas unless you're
Gymnastics.
gymnastic acro type of dancer, then you have a lot of upper body strength and shoulders.
Definitely. And I do love working legs because I feel so strong.
Yes, but I really do like working out my back, my back and my shoulders. I feel like it really makes and helps with my core too. It just, the more older you get, the more you need to work on these things because we are looking at our phone. We're looking down at our computer. You're hunched a little bit. It really helps straighten you up and strengthen that core back so that you don't
Definitely
lose it.
And I find even when I'm walking around, so when I'm doing weight training consistently and I'm working my back, my core, my shoulders, my chest, my arms, I find I carry the weight a little differently in my body. I just feel much stronger in my shoulders. And I feel like I carry my weight higher than when I'm not working out. I feel like I drag or I'm so heavy.
I agree. Yeah. So those are all great exercises and great way to focus on your exercises. So let's do it, everyone.
There's a thought. Popped up while running.
I was about 2 kilometers from home on my way back from one of my longer training runs for an upcoming longer race. I was tired. You always forget how relative things are, especially when it comes to running. A lot of us are like, oh, I'm so slow. But then we say that to the wrong person, and there's someone else who thinks we're fast, and then that can be discouraging. Or someone else says they're slow, and I know that they can run like twice as fast as me. Anyway, I digress. So I'm a couple kilometers from home, and I'm coming up a path right beside the golf course. There's somebody coming the other way. And the guy looked like he was probably about 65. He was overweight. He was making the motions as if he was running, but he was barely walking. Like, I'm pretty sure that somebody who was walking behind could keep up to him. So he was doing all the arm movements of running, but not going very fast at all. So what did I think at that moment? Well, I smiled. I thought it was fantastic. I was really happy for him. And it reminded me of myself about 10 years ago, because that was me. I was really overweight and I was trying to get back into running, and I was focused on working off heart rate. To do that, you can't exceed a particular heart rate. And I realized that in order to keep my heart rate low, I was making the motions of running, but I was barely going any faster than somebody walking. And it made me think about how much things have changed. And it made me think about how that guy, although maybe someone else would have gone by and thought, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. I know that he could be at the start of something amazing. And so it really made me feel good. And I sent him some really positive vibes as I went by, gave him a wave, said hi, wished him the best. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
The last few weeks, we were having a little bit of a problem with our pool. It was algae, was going a little green. And so we got some algicide and we put that in and it got a little better, cleaned it up, and everything's fixed. But no, it came back. And then we had to figure out, what about this? What about that? And then while we were in this process, I realized that this is kind of like a real analogy for life. That when you're trying to find balance, like we're trying to find the good water balance, it's not what you think it is. Like it's showing up as algae, but there's an imbalance somewhere else. And you might have to find it somewhere else. And you just have to look a little deeper and figure it out. And it might take a little longer than you thought. Anyways.
It's definitely a cute analogy, and
yeah,
not too heavy, but it's,
and not only that, we had to both work together on it,
That's true too. Okay, this is all my fault. I'm usually really fussy about these test strips that you have. Mm-hmm. So we get the pool set up, and then early in the year, there's three basic ingredients: chlorine, stabilizer, and pH. Mm-hmm. There's other stuff, but those are the ones you really need to control. Mm-hmm. And when the season starts, I get them under control and I check it every week.
Right, because I don't do it because you don't want two hands in the pot type of thing, So I let you do it so that we don't over chemicalize the pool.
Exactly. I didn't do it.
You didn't do it. So, and the thing is that the pool was really looking great, and it was feeling great, and it was so clear, and it was just wonderful. So it was going so well, and then
I was careful working on shocking it at the right time. We have an ozone pool, which is great, which means you don't need much chlorine, but you still have to use a couple chlorine pucks at times. But I just didn't bother checking for the pH in the stabilizer. And the stabilizer, not to get too technical, the stabilizer helps the chlorine work. I don't know how it works, but I think sunlight maybe deteriorates chlorine without the stabilizer, whatever.
And I think heat affects too, the hotter it is outside.
So it was a real drag when we started seeing the green at the bottom of the pool in spots and on the stairs. And like you said, we thought we fixed it and then it didn't. And you're right. And then I remember last year, it reminded me in terms of balance and over adjusting. Like last year, I kept putting pH up and to see if that works, and you test again. And last year I made a mistake of got to a certain point and I'm like, I'm sure it needs more, and I just dumped a bunch more in, and then I had too much pH. So now do I need pH down?
And you're back and forth, and
and you're right, life is kind of like that. Like you're cruising along, everything looks
clear and beautiful, and it's going well, and then pop, something happens. Yeah. And you're like, oh no.
And then you're scratching your head trying to figure out what to add.
Yeah. And then you got to go all back to basics and figure it out. So I just thought it was a cool life experience, and just generally for our whole wellness. You might have to look elsewhere for problems when something physical happens, like you get a cold, you realize you're too stressed or you're this or you're that. You have to kind of get everything back in balance.
On the bright side, I don't think we actually ended up fighting in any of these last few weeks over the pool.
No, we didn't. No.
Which is usual.
Yeah, it's like, oh, what's going on? Oh no, you haven't done that. But no, it's getting better, and it is what it is, right? There's no sense fighting about it.
Well, it's not exactly the art of motorcycle maintenance, but
the art of
the zen of keeping the green out of the pool balance, people. Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. It's Sheila here with Elise and John. Hi, guys.
Hi.
I am here.
I had a very busy week this week. Our 2 sons are moving into a house, so they got the house October 1st, and I took it upon myself to clean and get it all prepared so that they can move in next week. So we had to do the carpet cleaning and clean the floors and clean the walls, clean all the bathrooms. So that was a lot of work besides the work that my job. And then we came up to Collingwood for the weekend, which was very relaxing. So it went from, for me, crazy to let's relax. And it was kind of nice because it was rainy and cold here. It kind of puts you in the mood just to relax and calm down. So I feel like I definitely had a lovely break and a lovely Thanksgiving. What about you, Elise?
I had a great week. It was a fun work week. The weather was beautiful. And then we had an amazing weekend. So it was so nice to have an extra day this weekend just to relax. We were able to come visit you both in Collingwood. Mm-hmm. And then we were able to go up to Sauble Beach to have a nice family Thanksgiving dinner together. And it was really nice for us to be able to do it close to our area.
Yeah,
so that was really special. Looking forward to this week. I have my birthday weekend coming up. So Stephen and I are hoping to come enjoy the condo at Collingwood for the weekend. How about you, John?
Right, and we won't even be here, so you guys can just chill out and do whatever you want without worrying about us. I had a really good weekend. Really did enjoy coming up to Collingwood. It was really strange weather-wise because when we were packing to come up on Friday, we left a little bit earlier on Friday. I was bringing all shorts and t-shirts and thinking, wow, it's really hot. And we were hot in the car. Had to put on air conditioning. And we got up here, and then Saturday, wow, what a beautiful day for a run. It was perfect weather for me for a run, cool, bright, wonderful. Then all of a sudden it was just like rain, and cold. I really liked going to see my mom on Thanksgiving. She's alone this year, and she's been at the cottage at Sauble by herself most of the summer. So you could really tell it really lit her up to see us, and Elise and her brother came, and it was a really nice night. And for people who are listening from the States, you may know that in Canada, we celebrate Thanksgiving earlier than you. So that's why we're doing it this weekend. And I guess yours is coming up. So we hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving in a little while. So yeah, it's been a really good week, and I'm very relaxed having both a long weekend and being able to come up to Collingwood, where we seem to slow down just a little bit and catch our breaths a little bit more.
So that's it. I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast this week, and we will talk to you soon. That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.